So we have some wonderful menu options today. It's going to be another hard choice. So you get to select your main entree, and then there's soup or salad. You pick what you want. And all soft drinks are included. So if you want coffee, tea, sodas, whatever you like, is being provided by the lovely Premier Title. And if you can give them a hand, they're really love you too.
How's everyone going? How everybody doing? I'm Ryan. This is Jesse. So I'm the manager of our escrow department. So folks that work up the files and the closing. Jesse is the manager of the disbursement department. So she's in charge of all the closers. We've got 5 in-house closers, including myself. Yep. And we've got 5 escrow officers, including myself. Yeah, happy to be here.
So Ryan and Jesse are responsible for our lunch and learn. Yeah, you can work. So we're so grateful to have them here today because they're sponsoring them. So we're going to we're working on finalizing the details for our next lunch and learn event. If you want to mark your calendar for May 19th, we're hoping to do a lunch and learn on listings, getting 4 listings a week. 4 listings a week. So,
boring.
Right. So Ben Lang has been in real estate for 16 years. It'll be really cool to hear a little bit about his story. He focuses mainly on listings and he closes $18 million a year currently. And his big thing is focused on having a team and working through systems. So he's a systems kind of guy. So we're looking forward to joint venturing together and having a dialogue about how we can get offers accepted. That's the topic today. So if you could please tell us what you think by writing your first and last name and the date on the bottom right now in the tell us what you think survey form. Just need you to write your name and the date. And then as we go through, if you could give us like a grading and then feedback, because we will want these at the end. So we're asking you to, your only responsibility is to sign in and to give me a feedback survey. And if you have suggestions on speakers and ideas, a lot of what we have in our rotations come from your thoughts and what you said. Please make sure you sign in only because we need to for compliance. This is where we need you to put your complete information is on the sign-in sheet. And I am with Mortgage1. So and so is Mike Rice, who's here. Mike Rice and I are co-conspirators together in lending. And so we're a lending team. Yeah. And what we do is help provide residential mortgages, pre-approval, anything mortgage related for your clients. So please, a wonderful thank you for us would be to give us a referral. Someone that's looking to buy or sell their home. I need mortgage financing when they buy. Okay, Ben, take it away.
Yeah, so Don mentioned I've been in the business for about 16 or 17 years now. That's the Jeff here. We go back to 2011 at the same office. Yes, and I am highly focused on listings. I do speak at conferences nationally about the listing process and how to get more listings. So Don and I have just talked this morning about maybe making that the next topic of conversation. I'm sure a lot of realtors right now with our current market want to know how to pull in their average 2 a week or even 4 a week. I'm getting pretty close to averaging 4 a week. So that's definitely something that we can talk about. But yeah, as far as today, Dawn and I had sat down with my team and did a mastermind session because everyone's been struggling getting offers accepted. I know a lot of buyers agents on my team even are writing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 offers before getting one accepted. So just trying to figure out how do we get past that. And I think in the last 2 weeks, I've noticed a lot more inventory. Would anyone agree with that? So I think that problem might be alleviated on its own shortly here. But what time will tell, right? But I'm looking forward to kind of sharing some of the things, me as a listing agent, what I'm looking for when I see 18 offers, what sticks out to me. I think Jeff can teach us just as good as me. Got a ton of years in the business, but yeah, so I like it to be interactive. So if anyone, has a question on the spot, raise your hand. We will repeat that question back just so the people that are on Zoom can hear. So if you're wondering why we're repeating your question back, that's why. But yeah, let's have fun with it and let's make it interactive.
Can we switch topics to the next thing?
Well, we're just trying to get you excited to come back.
That's not hard to do. Come on.
Yeah, no, we could definitely, Dawn and I think we could put something together and definitely make that happen. We'll do our best to make that happen. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the introduction for me.
Are you doing sitting or do you like to stand?
Yeah, let's make it more like a mastermind. I just talked to Lori over here beforehand. He said he just got 2 offers accepted last night. So I think everyone in this room, it's not really the John and Ben show as much as it is let's come together and make it a collaborative effort. If that's okay with you guys.
Before you get, can you do your menu choice before you get started?
Yeah, I've got my note. We'll do it. We'll do it. So Ben,
I don't see the lobster.
Me?
Okay. Go ahead, sorry.
it's hard enough for me to do that much. My male constituent.
Let's go. Get going.
So Ben, what do you see in your offers coming across your table on your listing? What do you see that's winning on?
Well, the appraisal guarantee is a must. And I know it's tough. We have a lot of clients that simply are not capable. They don't have the means to do the appraisal guarantee. But right now, for most of my sellers, appraisal guarantee is pretty much front and center at the top of the list. We're also, we are looking at the different types of financing and stacking those up against each other. We're not doing love letters. I don't present love letters because it violates all types of fair housing rules. And so if anyone is in the room, I think the love letters are a bad idea, in my opinion. And I've been a broker since 2012, so I'm more about the liability side of things. So I would suggest stopping the love letters if that's something that you're doing. The pass-fail inspection, we're seeing a ton of pass-fail. How many people in the room are using pass-fail when they're writing?
Is that where you're just saying we're either pass or fail inspection as opposed to asking for credit?
Yeah, so exactly. So we're writing in our original offer, or the offers that I'm seeing, they're writing in their original offer. We are gonna do a pass-fail inspection only. What that means to you, Mr. Seller, is that we are gonna have our inspection just so we can feel good about this purchase. But we are not gonna come back and ask you for repairs. We're not gonna ask you for a seller contribution. We're not gonna ask you for a price reduction. So the seller knows up front they're not gonna get beat up after the inspection. And that alleviates a lot of concerns for sellers. Because in traditional markets that years past, buyers would use that inspection period to knock a little bit more off. Right, so, and I have exact wording, if anybody wants it afterwards, I'll share it, the exact wording that we use. But the sellers want to know, like, this is the price I'm getting. So if I'm getting an offer for $420 and I've got a pass-fail inspection and my appraisal is guaranteed by another $40,000, I'm gonna close it at $440. And so those are the 2 big things for us.
So Ben, let's say a pass-fail inspection and the buyer says, no, there's these three things wrong, I'm not interested in proceeding. That's the only choice, right? So then they say the satisfaction of inspection and they.
If you're agree to do
we
that.
agree to do that. Does the seller have the option at that point of saying, wait, well, what's the issue?
Yeah, and that happens
that
in many
happen?
cases. Yeah, it happens in many cases. So you're getting your offer accepted, but when you say you're gonna walk away, a lot of times the seller will come back and say, hey, look, we can make this right for a nominal amount of money. Let's just keep the deal together. But it's getting your offer accepted. That's why we're here today, is to figure out how to get that original offer accepted.
So I just have a question for you. I've got a VA offer about 15,000 higher than the conventional. Besides the termite, what other costs does the seller incur? And are VA appraisals a little more lenient than conventional?
So Josh's question is, he has an offer accepted for VA, he took a VA buyer who came in $15,000 higher than the conventional offer that was on the table. And his first question is, pest inspection or termite inspection is required for the seller pay. Is there anything else that is required that the seller pay, is the first question. And then the second part of the question is, what are we seeing for appraisal on VA? So let's talk about it. Number one, somebody other than the buyer has to get their right inspection. The buyer closing fee. And then the couple of, it doesn't mean that the seller has to pay it, it just means that the buyer can. So when I have running side-by-side approvals, VA and conventional, I will go to the listing and say, your seller will have no cost, the termite inspection cost, or anything. I as a lender will pay it if you accept the offer. And if there's any shenanigans that go on with the appraisal, we'll flip to conventional in a heartbeat. And we'll be able to redo a little appraisal. So,
I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
so someone has to pay it. So there's,
Just the buyer is the only one that cannot,
right.
anyone else can.
The same thing, sometimes FHA requires 2 appraisals when it's like under 6
Yeah,
months.
right.
The flipping world, sometimes they need 2 appraisals. The buyer just can't pay the second one. Someone else can pay that's the same sort of. So you have a termite inspection. The closing fee that the title company charges, which is $550, $600. The buyer can't pay that. And there's some other fees. Now you can either pay the seller concessions, or the lender has, or you have the lender, the seller, or the or concessions to hit them up. Yeah. Now Jeff's second question is one of them that answer with opinion. I feel that from the last 8 years since the Obama administration, something drastically changed in the way that VA does their appraisals. And I have not had nearly the same issues that I had pre-Obama administration. So something went down, and I'm telling you, it was like the second term onward. I have not had the issue. VA used to have there used to be such a struggle with appraisals. And a lot of times they'll call what's called tide water. Do you guys know what tide water is? Tide water means that the appraiser says, the appraiser says, hey, agent, we could use your help at getting some house. Give us some comparables. But whenever they ask for comparables, they're actually asking you as a listing agent really for assistance to kind of justify the item.
Does that answer your question? I can add to that too. So Dawn is my preferred lender. And her ability, when my agents are submitting offers for the buyer, her ability to convey and sell financing and getting to the closing table through that listing has been integral. I mean, really, really important. So if you're not using the lender, you can really walk the listing agent through things that they may not even know. I think, you're kind of missing out on an opportunity there.
It definitely is a team effort right now, getting offers accepted. I think real estate is a tougher job of getting offers accepted. You have so much to worry about between appraisals, home inspectors, the lender doing their job, the buyers get together. So when you have a lending relationship that fits intricately with you, that's preferred. And let's be no mistake, the real estate agent is the wheel. I think you guys are the wheel, and each vendor services your spoke. So I feel that a lender services is a spoke to your wheel, and the client's the hub. So we can make sure we are always doing what the client wants. The real estate agent is the one holding it all together, and fair to me, I'm one of those folks, I'm not the wheel whatsoever. And so if you have a lender that recognizes that and is there to serve you and serve the client, that's what you need at this point in the game, because there's sometimes on Friday nights, you need to call into the listing agent and even just leaving a message and just leaving a message, sending a text message and just reiterating the strengths of the buyer. It does make a big difference for sure. Can we go back to appraisal guarantees and talk that through a little bit more? What are you guys seeing on the market? Do you see same thing? Appraisal guarantees, is it frustrating? Where are you guys at with appraisal guarantees? Is are you worried?
I know, thank you.
They're coming with cash offers, and other offers of $20,000, $40,000 in the last time.
And the appraisal guarantee. Yeah. I can't.
Funds that they have, over $7,000.
I'm kind of amazed at cash buyers. You guys have done such a good job at educating buyers, because cash buyers, who would have thought a cash buyer has to come in higher than the asking price? Like, that blows my mind, and these cash buyers know it, and recognize it right from the get-go. So that's.
Sometimes they lose two or three. But yeah.
I was going to ask you about that. How do you feel about us calling you as buyers agents and saying what's important to you to sell? I always do that.
Yeah, so I'm the listing agent that is forthright with people, and I'll tell you the reason why. So I know there's listing agents out there who say, I want to keep this a level, even playing field for everyone involved. Now, my fiduciary responsibility is to the seller, not to all the realtors, right? So I tell a lot of people what the highest I have is, and I tell them to call me 15 minutes before the deadline is over, and I'll tell them the number to beat. By doing that, I get the seller more money, right? So my advice to you would be to develop that great rapport, like, when you meet a new client, your rapport, we want to build that rapport. Make that listing agent your friend as well without inundating, because realize, and people are like, oh, I'm so surprised you take my call. No other listing agents will take my call. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, on this listing that's fire, like, I just feel it's 60 phone calls this week and then I'm not getting paid for it. So, but that's why the listing agents aren't answering. So maybe a text and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking about submitting. I don't want to waste my time, my client's time. Is it okay if I call you right before the deadline? Could you tell me what the number and the terms are to beat? Would that be okay with you? And just doing that, it's like, I appreciate that, because I just try to get myself.
Last night, I was just surprised how many people submitted offers without contacting me, found out what was important.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'll get 20 offers and only 2 people call me. So I actually appreciate it sometimes. And those go-getters, I want to help them out, because if you're a go-getter, I feel like you're going to get my heels in the finish line, right? So you're telling me as the listing agent, I'm going to make this happen, where the agent who sends me an offer and didn't text me, didn't call me, I'm thinking, I'm not really looking forward to working with this person. So yeah, does that answer your question? Yeah.
I think it's more of a statement from the mastermind perspective than a question.
Yeah, make that listing. I tell my buyer's agents or my team, make that listing agent your best friend. Let that help you get it done. If they're truly aligned with fiduciary responsibility to their seller, they will tell you what it's going to take to win. And either your buyer can do it or they can't. But at least they're putting their seller in a position to get the most.
Right, there's a myth that agents think they're not allowed to tell you though.
That's a total myth.
I know.
Well, tell them you stay in that.
Let me,
Say.
I get permission.
Right, whatever information, right. Yep.
I should preface that. Yeah, yes, it's their decision, but when I explain, I can give you more. Yeah, go ahead.
So Ben, okay, let's say you got 5 offers and one guy says, whatever, come in and you tell him 250.
Yeah.
What if the next guy calls 2 minutes later? Do you tell him,
That
you have to
happens.
255? I
It
mean,
happens. Oh, I'm sorry. So, yeah, the question was, what if I get 3 agents and they're all asking me the same thing and I tell them all, yes, I'm gonna fill you in? That happened probably 2 weeks ago on a Troy house. So I took all 3 of those and I said, you guys are all escalating. So I can't do anything with 3 escalating offers. So with the escalating, our highest offer was 697. So I went back to those 3 the next morning and I said, listen, you guys, it's gonna be one of you 3. And I know I told you, I'll tell you, but I can't because all 3 of you are so close. So you guys give me your very top number, take away your escalating, give me the final number. By doing that morning, we ended up getting our 697 to 728. So sometimes, yeah, sometimes it doesn't work. You have to say, listen, you know, there's 3 people that are in my top, and I'd love for you to all win, but if I keep telling you what you need to be, well, we're not gonna go anywhere, right? So at this point in time, I'll give you 2 hours. Come back to me with that number. And whoever wins, wins. And my seller, like, he really worked 697 tops with the escalating offer.
Right.
So to grab him, what, 28 plus 3, another 31 grand. He was established. Yeah.
So what do you think of escalating?
Oh, I hate him. Because if everything escalates, how do you get a real number if you have 10 offers and they're all escalating? If you are gonna write an escalating, at least make your starting offer higher than the ask. Because if they all started asking and they all escalate, there's nowhere to go. It doesn't make any sense.
Do you have that sometimes where you have
Yeah, but I'll go back to, so.
the top ones say?
Yeah, I mean, if they escalate to like, say, like 630, then I know they're willing to go at that time. So I can say, remove your escalating. Your escalating went up to 630, but I just give me the number. Is anyone on the team in here? Have a team lead? One thing that I suggested, because I've got 17 years in this business and a lot of closed transactions, I suggested to my team members, if they're writing an offer, come to me and see if I have a relationship with that listing agent so that I can make the personal call and leverage the relationship that I have and say, hey, you know, this is my top buyer's agent and it's going to get done, and leverage your team lead.
Yeah.
I would say, are you guys doing that already?
We do a little bit of it, but it'd be nice to do it on every offer.
Yeah, taking over every offer. If your team lead has done a lot of deals, they're going to have relationships.
Yeah, I'm sure Mark probably does.
Same thing on the lending side. I always look to see, do I know the listing agent? Have I worked with them before? So I'll cross-reference it to a deal and then like I called this listing agent the other day. Oh, we were together last January on Burnside Street. She couldn't even remember the street that she had serviced, but, and she was a listing agent. I'm like, usually I don't know the streets, but I have done the back research for it. But I know that in our messaging, like I could tell from the messaging that we had, because I'd given her the updates weekly and that sort of thing. So I knew that it was really long too. So having that as well, that if they know the listing.
Go off on one
Yeah,
little
please.
tangent here. So, like all these strategies are great, but how do you get your client ready to play ball with the strategies that you present to them? So what we started doing with our team at initial buyer consult, we're taking the worst case scenario. So we're saying, okay, I just want to let you know that it won't be uncommon if we get an inspection report that's 150 pages long. Now we know the inspection reports are going to be 60 or 70, but so we're prepping them for a 150-page inspection report. So when they get to 60 saying, you know, don't be surprised or be competitive in this market. You're gonna have to write a $10,000 earnest money or prepare to do that. Don't be surprised if the lender comes back and asks for docs of 8 different times throughout this transaction. We know it's not 8 times for the most part. So we're making everything way worse at the very forefront of it. We're saying, don't be surprised if we have to write 10 offers before we get one accepted. And our application. So we're setting expectations, and then we look like rock stars when everything comes in under what was proposed. The other thing was the buyer remorse is the biggest one. So we tell them right out of the gate, hey, listen, all of our clients, pretty much every single one of our clients, will go through this, we'll make offers on 5 different properties. When you finally win one, that next day or even later that night, you're gonna have these thoughts of, oh my gosh, what did I do? I just wanna let you know that that buyer remorse is totally normal. We're gonna work through it. And that has helped us cut out on losing deals due to buyer remorse. We're prepping that up front for all of these things. So if anything, start adding that to your first meeting with the buyer. Make it sound horrible, and then we're weeding out the buyers who aren't serious at the same time.
What do you say to them to introduce the appraisal guarantee? Or that they're gonna have to overbid? How do you come to that?
Yeah, I mean, the appraisal, we tell them that it's a standard in this market. I mean, it's a standard, it's not when you present, I take that back, you know, we go by days on market. So typically if we're 14 days or less on market, that appraisal guarantee has got to be a standard. If we're 14 days plus on market, you know, we usually get away and have a lot more flexibility.
Questions for Yvonne?
Are you able to get concessions for your buyer?
The question is, are we able to get concessions? We are getting concessions on properties that are listed longer than 21, 30 days. If it's listed less than 14 days, we're not even trying.
So under 7 days would be a miracle. I'm a miracle man.
I'm not real familiar with this, but I understand in a couple states, because it's so competitive, there's companies that are actually lending cash, not like a mortgage. Do we do that here in Michigan? Because I've not heard of anything like that. So then your buyer can come in, pay cash, then turn around and refinance it later, you know.
I've heard of that.
There's
So is that in Michigan? Because I'm not familiar with it at all. Is that?
I know of a couple of different scenarios. One, so Terry's question is, there are some that the lender or someone is paying cash for the property
Who's doing that?
and
Yeah.
then reselling it to the buyer after closing. Or
The buyer comes to closing with cash because they're working with this company, but I don't know, is this a mortgage company? Is this some other kind of company? I don't,
that is
yeah, I don't know. I'm just hearing some agents from other states. Pardon?
what they pitch a lot of these companies.
Okay,
But what they're actually doing is doing a whole underwrite on these people.
that's what I wondered.
And it's contingent on appraisal and title, and they're presenting it as cash. And they do have the means to fund it as cash, but 9 times out of 10, it's not getting to that point.
How's that hard to move?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm interested.
well, I would think that, but yeah, I've not heard of it in Michigan, so I just didn't know if
The cash, so the one that I know of specifically, they charge, I believe it's 12%. But they only want to keep you in that loan for 90 days, and then they're rebuying you back out. Then you're paying 2 loans. Well, no, because it's.
No, it's you're paying.
one loan.
Right.
But you are paying, yeah, 12% on it for like 90 days.
But that would get you the house you want for people that have lost like 8 deals.
there are rental companies that are paying cash and then renting it back to that buyer for the first year, and then they're being qualified to buy in the future. So that's what we're attempting to do.
Interesting.
There is a gentleman on a case-by-case basis out of Grand Rapids I talked to this week. He is, for some of his clients, he will go in and pay cash for the house and then sell the house a few days later. Should I?
You can't be FHA. because
That does
there's
twist
that-
Right.
There's definitely a long list of.
Right.
The FHA rules on you.
So, does it, this is just a small thing, do you find that some of your offers that you submitted have like misspellings or misinformation and inaccuracies, and what do you?
Wrong addresses.
Yeah, what, do you have those kind of things that come across your desk with listings, and what does that tell you, or what do you do with that?
Well, first of all, I love it when agents send me an offer and they've got a whole breakdown of the body. You know, they've got 10 points, purchase price is X, this type of financing with this much down, the earnest money is this. The bullet buy date is this, the occupancy is this.
I love
And that way, because if I am getting 20 plus offers, it just makes it a lot. So if you're helping the agent, the listing agent, that's gonna help you. Because, yeah.
You don't have your own offer submission document?
Spreadsheets when it makes sense, but no, I don't do an offer submission.
Do some listing agents have an offer submission?
I do.
Where they-
Yeah.
I use
Sometimes it's a pain. Right in the
Yeah.
pocket.
So for me, I do everything electronically, so I hate that because I have to add a text box.
Yeah.
20 different
But I
lines.
set it up so every time I go in, I'm just adding whatever. You know what I mean? I pre-set it up, so each listing, I'm just adding the information. So the text box is already there.
On the text box.
Yeah,
everywhere.
Yeah,
Some
just use
agents
the
do
same
that.
one and then
I've seen
copy
them a
it.
lot where they have the docs. So you
And the
have-
docs.
You take it from Remind and then you have this PDF, and then I gotta sit there and
Yeah.
create 20 different text boxes.
Oh, you mean on the buyer side? Yeah.
Right.
We're not because the old days used to hand deliver.
All right.
Hey, Jeff, you were trained well.
It's great, I mean, it's great. I haven't figured out a way where I can do it.
And then they sign, if there's any discrepancies, the offer submission form precedes the purchase agreement.
Yeah.
So I've had people leave out concessions before on the offer submission that were in the contract. So I learned, I'm like, okay, can't let that happen again. That way I just go to my seller with offer submission forms, here's each one. These are our offers.
My own.
Yeah. Not a bad idea.
Good morning.
Oh, but for the mistakes, yeah, I mean, if it's giving my seller the most money by a long way, I'll just go and clean it up myself. I had one the other day, it was multiple offer situation, it was a terribly written offer, but it was way above the line.
Do you scrutinize it more? Do you call the listing agent? Do you call the lender? Do you reach out?
I called the lender on every deal.
Do you call every? So do you call the lender once you decide what your top three are? You call the top three
Yeah.
lenders?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you look for? What do you guys look for when you call the lender?
I asked, have you physically reviewed it? Asset credit. Number one is, have you actually reviewed it? And then I ask questions like, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable you feel this is going to get to the closing table? What issues do you anticipate along the way? Is there any reason that this would not, I'm asking the same question, just in a phrase in 10 different ways. Is there any reason that this would not get to the table, you know, the closing table? On a scale of 1 to 10, how strong is this buyer in your mind? That's the kind of stuff I'm asking.
I also ask if they have enough money to cover an appraisal guarantee. Because I have had situations where when I call the lender, it's like, oh, hell no. You know, it's like, where's that money coming from? So
We
then
get
you know.
appraisal guarantees over 10K, we ask the buyer's agent to send a fund.
Right. But even proof of funds, sometimes the lender wants X amount in the bank, whatever, but you're right over 10K, it should be, no. But yeah, I've had a couple that they were good down payments and stuff, but they would not be able to cover that. So,
Unless they switch the down payment to cover,
right.
like it shows
But
up
then
there.
that changes, right? And then you find out, well, husband has
Yeah.
credit issues, so yeah.
in line with what you said, I always said, you can almost tell, just by the way they answer and how they talk, whether or not they really know what they're doing. If you-
I love lenders. We just put it together. We'll figure it out. Figure it out. I don't want to hear figure it out.
I always ask, is there an issue that you have to deal with? You don't have to tell me because I'm not supposed to know it anyway. But I want to know right up front if there's something you have to work out. I don't want to hear about it before the close. As long as you assure me that you're not concerned about it, that you can work it out, but then when it's the way it's going. You know,
That's why
We'll figure it out.
Right.
Tell them you can-
yeah. I've been lied to by lenders.
So if I hear you right, what you're saying is, it's important to, could you say, well, just give me a summary, so I can zoom.
that is there perhaps an issue that might surface during the approval process, but something that you know you can work out. But it could delay the closing. I want to know upfront.
Okay, so the comment was, it's important to know upfront, it's so by asking the buyers, is there, or the lender, is there an issue that you see could potentially come up that you are speculating might be an issue? I'd rather know upfront, and even if it ends up delaying us a week or two, I'd rather know what that issue could be, right? Is that right? Okay.
Now, I might get in trouble. saying that.
Right.
Well,
We've all been there.
When I see the out-of-state lender approval letters, they get pushed to the bottom of the list.
Of course, there's
So if you're submitting offers and you got that out-of-state approval letter, you might
Talk to Dawn.
talk about it.
Are there any other lenders you put to the bottom specifically?
We all do, yeah.
I know, I wanted to hear it.
Camera right now.
Turn that off for a second.
So my question is anybody here, when it's your listing, multi-offer situation, are you putting any clauses in those sale contracts that say something like, should buyer decide to switch lenders, seller may declare this offer, the sale contract null and void?
Actually a good one to put in.
And all of a sudden, it's switching lenders.
There's a problem.
Why? It's like a caution flag, right? Is anybody putting those clauses in?
No, but that's probably a good idea.
So Sharon, hold on.
Must be a-
Quick summary. So then Zoom, so Sharon, I'm loving what Sharon is saying right now. Sharon with her, she's with us, and she is saying, do you ever put in your contracts that, should your buyer decide to change lenders from the approval that was given, then the seller has the ability to question or to reject or make your offer null and void due to that change? That would be below.
I'm gonna add something to that.
Well, and I just want to add a little something to that. So if you ask, so if you ask permission, like, let's say you narrow down all your offer submissions to 3 or 5 or 11, and you have a conversation with the buyer agent, I already talked to your lender, it sounds like everything's good. Do you mind if we add this clause in there? Because I have personally found that they're like, wait a minute, well, my buyer might, been pre-approved for, by 6 lenders, and it's kind of like, to me, that's a caution flag. Why?
Right.
So sometimes that helps weed out all those buyers too. Like,
Very good idea.
shorten the list. So anyways, I just throwing it out there. Love it.
And then, can you ask her, are you also writing on there about the EMD of the forfeiting it, there's an issue? Did you guys say, I didn't hear that answer?
Oh, so the question was, I think Ronnie had first posed it. If they do switch lenders and they decide to pull out the contract, and they don't go to the original lender, are you putting in there that you get to keep their earnest money deposit? Would you? I don't know if that's necessarily grounds for keeping an earnest money. I guess, that's kind of a case by case, but it certainly is grounds when we have conversation with my seller that says, I don't know, I feel like the buyer has weakened here because they're going to another buyer. I don't know if that's in the ground to keep it EMD, but that's not necessarily a bad idea either. But the mortgage funds does, protect it, so I don't know.
Right, you also spend so much time before you go through inspection, then the appraisal has an issue when they start changing lenders. I've had 2 agents particularly do this every time about the 3rd week in, they switch lenders, which then extends it. Yeah, so it's not a big reason, they make up reasons. And I said to them, now this really changed the market 3 weeks later. So my client has now been, inconvenienced and out of the market and walk away. So that's what I'm thinking I'm going to do, because especially like deal with these other 2 cases that I'm doing.
And speaking of that, that gives me another question. I know an agent, and there's probably a few here that do this. Does anyone here have an agreement with your seller that if earnest money deposits are retained, that you get half of it?
Yes.
That's in most contracts, actually.
I give the whole thing.
I give it to the seller.
Most brokers don't want to keep quiet.
Because they're taking a huge hit. Well, not in the money market, but.
I feel like you guys do so much work.
I do.
And then it's rare.
It's almost a guarantee they might get less than that first offer, because everybody wants to know
So they-
what
they're taking
happened
a
with
hit.
their
So I feel like
inspection.
they should get the whole thing.
Yeah, so kind of bridges the gap on what I think might be a lower sale price at.
If you put down on the remarks and previous buyers do not qualify for all, then you don't have to really reduce the price. And with this crazy market, you don't have to reduce it at all.
And especially if you have multiple offers, you just call, because I've had a couple deals
Right, we'll
fall.
start calling them.
Someone lost their
The
job.
buyer put an offer on 3 houses at the same time, and they had to pick one.
Yeah, that has happened too.
I don't know that those.
Well, why wouldn't you? Sellers get an offer, why should a buyer put out?
One thing that we.
I would never do that before. Last couple of years, like, why not?
Yeah.
Gotta give you a shot.
If your client requests it.
And then you get two of them accepted, you're like, okay.
I had
sure.
an issue with that.
One thing that we've been doing recently too is we're countering a lot of offers. 3% price guarantee. To really get
If you have just a sidebar on that, if you have a Vista deal, please have the EMD be at least 1% of the sale price. 1% is super helpful.
That's
Because they need to
it.
have 1% in the agreement. And if you do it, then it's possible that maybe they need no more money. It just makes it for a really smooth process for those relationships.
We're the one outside. I do it all.
I would never do it before, but this market, last couple of years. it's been so crazy.
Do it. That's why as a listing agent, you have to be pretty careful and make sure you're not screwing your seller. Like,
So, right, you put in, you said that sometimes you put in more than one offer per house.
No.
No,
no,
I put on. I put
Different
like 3
houses.
on it. I put offers on 3 separate houses at the same time.
We have one buyer, you're putting in offers on 3 houses.
correct.
Is that allowed?
it's allowed, but it probably is
You
ethical.
can only buy one house, right?
Right. If the seller accepts the offer, if 2 sellers accept the offer at the same time, that buyer's making it more.
Yeah, but
There's-
now, choice 2 and 3 are already pending, so they get nothing. You know what I mean? So if you don't do it, then they lose out on all 3 houses.
But as a listing agent, that's a pretty existing offer. Seller will accept it. I had
Well,
somebody do
it's done so,
that.
it doesn't.
Well, in this one.
Small question. Favorite, small favorite.
Something, so.
That's what.
Right, in this market.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fair, I'm a listing agent too. I know we try to put a strong offer.
It would be Stephanie, she should be in her. It's just
That's
very
what most
crazy.
agents
I'm not saying she's trying to help.
I think there's a really good spreadsheet.
Hello.
Nobody even works.
I want to go over a handout that won't be as good once lunch comes and I kind of. I made a spreadsheet up. It's part of the handout. The first page has like our Ben and I on it. The second page is the spreadsheet, but also on the screen. So this would be a good time to share the screen.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So the gentleman over here next to Terry, what's your name?
Sal?
Sal. He alluded to this. Whenever your client is putting more down than the minimum down payment required by the lender, your buyer can then make an appraisal guarantee and not have to bring any more money to the closing. So I did a number of like examples. I did a few different scenarios. So Shelley, one of Ben's buyer agents, will often ask me, she'll say, do they right for the client on the phone? So I do a three-way call to the client. So once I have the clients, I'm working with them face-to-face, either through Zoom or face-to-face, and then we outbound call the agent so that three of us can have triangle of trust and put the game plan together for the buyer on what they're gonna do. Do they have to sell first? Is it possible for them not to sell first? So I have a client right now that's pre-approved to 475 with or without selling. If they sell, the down payment's $175,000. If they don't sell, it's 10%. So I don't, so in that quick scenario, they can technically do an appraisal guarantee for up to 5% of $475,000. Because the lending requirement, minimum requirement for conventional loans is 5% down. Or if you're a first-time home buyer, the minimum requirement for conventional is 3% down. So technically, if you have a buyer that is putting, here's in scenario one. So this client is a $350,000 pre-approved client, and they're putting down 20%. That's $70,000. They have no PMI insurance, private mortgage insurance. So all you are doing is deciding if you want to move up the scale of the possibilities of an appraisal guarantee and what that can mean to the worst case scenario. So in the column to the right, I love how you did this, Mike. Thank you so much. This was great. So it says 350 and the parentheses it says 2. So if the person wanted to still put their same 20% down and they were willing to pick up PMI insurance of $27 a month, $27 a month, they can do an appraisal guarantee of $17,500. Up to $17,500, and still have the same down payment, $70,000. And the only thing that would change for them would be that $27 higher payment, no other changes. Loan amount stays the same, nothing changed there, except a little bit of PMI.
Are you the only one? I've never heard this before.
Nobody's talking about it.
I've always heard
It's smart.
Short on your appraisal, you're paying out of pocket, doesn't matter if you have 5% down or 20%.
It doesn't have to be.
No.
Doesn't have to be.
Very smart. Exactly.
So if we go to a very large extreme, let's go to like the last column on the right. So a very large extreme, and this large extreme is only gonna be $50 a month. If a person did an appraisal guarantee of $52,500, basically they could probably do like no appraisal contingency at all at that point, right? If you felt that there was some constant support at $300,000 sale price. But in this scenario, if they did an appraisal guarantee of $52,500, and it didn't appraise for that amount, let's say it appraised 25,000 short, well, then they'll only pay the PMI insurance that goes along with the shortage. But in this extreme example, if it does appraise $50,000 short, they're still going to bring their $70,000 to closing. The only thing that will change is their payment will $50 a month. Do you want to lose this house for $50 a month?
No.
In this particular client in scenario one, technically what they weren't putting 20% down, they were putting 15% down. So in their scenario, do you want to lose this house for $23 a month? You could have this house guaranteed. I have a client right now that's pre-approved FHA for $100,000 down payment. Yes, they have full FHA. $100,000 down. Technically, they can do an appraisal guarantee for like 90 grand. I'm like, you can, when you're buyers, agents. I'm like, you can buy, if you want that house in Rochester, guarantee if you do a $90,000 appraisal guarantee, you're gonna get it. But it's, the buyer's not, it's not.
You're not understanding?
It's not, so I feel like it's, this kind of stuff has to come from an understanding of a real estate agent and lending. Like, because some of these real estate agents can say, we'll go and explain to them, and then we'll see what they want to do. but it needs to be a comprehension of both sides.
Right.
Because sometimes a client, if they're with you guys the most, and they want to ask different ways, different questions, and how hopefully they get it.
I think it's brilliant.
Really work. So when I talk to my agents, I will say this client can do an appraisal guarantee up to $35,000. And if they do, it will cost this much more PMI insurance. And so now they're so used to it. Then some of my agents are used to it. They'll say, "What's the appraisal guarantee? What can we do?" And I'm like, "Well, this buyer's conventional 3% down, their minimum down. Unless they get money from grandma or grandpa that they said they might be able to get $10,000, you don't have the ability to appraisal guarantee."
We had an impossible buyer, Alan. Was tomorrow. You want to share that?
No, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. Well, first of all, I was looking in North Warren at 250,
Okay.
which there's nothing. Everybody's looking in North Warren.
Okay.
She was an FHA buyer,
Right?
and I believe you
I
had
have a
no
full
money.
conventional. I have a different conventional.
So you did get the loan.
Yeah, and he
I
has a
thought he had no,
664, so it's PMI insurance stuff.
and I thought he had no money for appraisal here.
But yes, you did, so we did like a $2,000. Even $2,000 or $3,000, sometimes it's so precious.
So I thought maybe that might be a good story, because I know my agent struggled for maybe a month or two. But it's closed, I think.
Yeah, it's closing tomorrow. Clear close has the time. Yeah, in that case, if ever there's a possibility, so if it's strong, sometimes buyers are stronger suited to go FHA. But that doesn't matter right now. They may be stronger suited to go FHA, but if they can go conventional, they're getting a conventional approval too. And I will speak, and it costs this particular client like $80 more a month to go conventional, and 2% percentage in a point down more to go conventional. But this particular seller, they had a choice. They could either take FHA financing and an appraisal guarantee 1.5% of the sale price, which is like $5,000, or they could take the conventional 5% down on their no appraisal guarantee. They chose conventional. So the buyer ended up with like an $80 higher payment and 1.5% more down, but they ended up with a house that they didn't have. Thank you for that.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you. Scenario 2, any questions on scenario 1? It takes a little while to kind of wrap.
Yeah.
around that.
Maybe the session.
So I have an engineer that wanted to know it from a different perspective. So if you have an engineer mind, that's where scenario 3 is. So they had me do a scenario of 350 being the actual, how the appraisal came in, and then the actual appraisal came in short by 15,335, and then the actual appraisal came in short at 315. So this particular person wanted to see how their down payment changed, making their, so they could still, so in this particular case, what I had to do is show the payments, the total payments and how they changed, and the PMI insurance, because in their case, if you look under total DP for down payment, they could choose to put less than 20% down at that point. At the point that it came short, they're picking up PMI insurance, maybe they don't want to put $7,000 out of pocket now. And so maybe they now want to put $48,000 out of pocket, because now they want PMI insurance is only $50 a month. So that was for an engineer client that wanted to see all the details of that. Versus if I just keep the down payment flat, if I just make the down payment $7,000 no matter what, you know, it's an easy. Some lines think differently. Well, technically, if it appraises for 300, then my minimum down payment of 5% is based on 300,000, not on 350. So that's where that complicated scenario. Right.
I like how it's being so.
Let's have your- We're talking more than something.
Are these numbers based on credit score as well?
Yes, yeah. So this particular one,
Scenario 3.
They're all on the same credit score. Do you remember what it said, Mike? I thought it was 740. Yeah.
My client, I have a client that just is there.
So it's-
He's born. In 2008 happened.
How many people in the room are doing
I filed bankruptcy and never went below 650.
personalized video?
No, back in-
So you don't do a love letter, but you do a video?
I lost
We got this video.
Plus I was transitioning to real estate.
Agent, from the agent. He's like, he's in the
And get
front yard of the house. He's like, hey, I just want to let you know.
That was a good 5 years.
Listing. Buyer's in love with it. Just wanted to say hi, and introduce myself. I'm gonna have an offer coming your way in the next 2 hours. I'll reach out and give you a call before I do so. And I'll tell you what, for me being on the listing side, I thought that was a genius play. Like, he stood out. I didn't forget him. So you know, maybe if you're comfortable with doing stuff like that, and it was real simple, it just said, hey, I'm walking out of your listing right now. Buyers love it. We're gonna write something strong on a couple hours.
And then you text me.
He texted me that video.
It was just him.
And it was just him. Yeah,
That's cool.
it was just him. So it didn't break any fair housing because his clients were. You do?
Because you know what, I just want them to know who I am, what kind of who I am.
I'll tell you what, this is the first time I've ever gotten that as a listing agent. And I was so impressed by it. I thought that was just amazing. So as he's walking out and showing our listing, he's in front. He's just doing a little selfie video. He goes, hey, Ben, I'm just thinking your listing at 123 Main Street. Beautiful house, amazing listing. My clients are in love with it. Just want to let you know I'm sending an offer today. I'm gonna call you in an hour or two, work through the details. But I just wanted you to be able to put a face with a name.
Right,
But I'll talk to you soon. And that was it. Nothing fancy, just, but when his offer came, he stood out because of that video.
right.
You remember them, you made an impression.
He did.
That's what it is, you want to make an impression, that's why people need to network, pick up the phone.
And I thought that was, I just thought that was so cool. I thought it was so cool, so.
Paul is here from the Linda Ray team. Paula, do you want to come up? And do you want to, I'm only asking you to come up because when you talk, I want to make sure that others on Zoom can hear. Do you want to give a little bit of feedback on some things that you're doing that's working with your cleaning offers?
Sure. Everything you said so far is amazing. Guys, give him an applause.
I love that too.
Well, let me tell you, I'm Paula Johnson, of the Linda Ray team. Linda Ray's been in business for, 100 years, probably. She's been upstairs, she's been there for about 48 years. And so we have a whole team. So she wanted, so I love to do this. I love to go places and learn. A lot of agents won't share. So the more that we network with each other, we share. We want to remember somebody. Like when you do a video, I have most agents say, I thought that's who you were.
Yeah.
And it does make a difference when you reach out and you let them know, because they say, I know when you deal from you, you're gonna take it from your table in the end. And that's what you want to do. Be that agent that everybody knows that you're gonna follow through. Do the other agent's job. Don't just do your job. You call, this is what I do when we get a deal. We accepted a deal together. I'd be like, hey, I'll pick every Thursday. I'm gonna call your title company, my title company, the mortgage officer, I'm gonna give you a report.
Yep.
Every Thursday. Because that way, guess what? You don't have to do all of it. You can trust yourself to do it. But you gotta know that other agents on your toes, they're doing the job.
Well, and so it's the 80-20 rule. So 20% of the agents are doing 80% of the business.
Right.
So we're constantly, those 20 are crossing each other's paths. So it's inevitable we're gonna cross paths again, right? So when we had a deal that was so super incredibly smooth, the next time you send me an offer, I'm like, okay, this is gonna get done. She's gonna make my life easy. And so I'm gonna be pushing for you.
Right.
And that's a really, really important thing that I think we neglected to talk about today. But when you do have your shot, you're gonna come across these agents. My agent relationships in this business help me get so many deals done.
Absolutely.
I don't think a lot of agents kind of get that theory or philosophy. Because I deal with a lot of agents who act like we're on two separate teams, when in fact we're not. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be, let's be on the team of the deal.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. So when you guys leave here, nothing else, remember, KTO video, very different, it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be professional, just do it.
You trip and fall, send it. It makes it more genuine and real, then you're a real person.
Speaking of, it's really funny, okay, I was in the house, getting ready to walk out the door, and I called the agent, and I told him, hey, you love your house, I know it's hot, you got a lot of people through. I am terrified of cats, I've never had a dog, but cats, yeah, I don't like them. A cat jumps off the shelf, gets me in the small on the video, by the way, laughing, they shared it with everybody, it was pretty funny, and I'm like, I just needed the deal, the cat's killing me, I gotta go, you know, and it was funny, because
The response was probably amazing.
it was, everybody, they shared it with everybody, it was so funny.
Yep.
But, you know, we talked about earlier too, about when you do deals with other people, I think you guys, this is a really cool thing I've done from the time that I started being a real estate agent, and, every time I do a deal, if I do a deal with loan officer type company agent, I put it in my phone, and then I put the deal behind it in the house number, so when you call me, I can say, hey, do you remember the last 3 deals we did on
Yeah.
Shenandoah and Smith Street Concord? If you do that, they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. And it makes such a difference. I think you guys do that on your phone, you save the agent's names on your phone.
And then she'll put the street name that's on the way.
And behind that, you put good or bad. You're gonna wanna work with them again. If it was a little rough, you might wanna make a comment behind you, so you know what you're gonna get yourself into. And again, my biggest thing from this, and you do a great job, everything's really wonderful, but my big takeaway was, you know, relationships with networking, and we all are on.
Yeah, we're so focused on building relationships with clients. But then we treat our fellow agents like they're our enemy. I feel, I just am like, why?
Oh, you see how I came in like an agent said, don't call this agent, everybody's offer is fair. I was like, I don't want to deal with this. I know someone's gonna say to me, hey, how many offers do you have? Can I ask you a question on exposure? That's why I really call this one. Yeah, you try it. Partial of it is so easy. I don't know if that's guaranteed that fire. So we're trying to make a decision whether we can even write on the house. You know, how we she started talking to me and she's like, did you not read the MLS? I was like, and I read the other question. But I said to myself, well, this is the deal. I said, obviously, this might not be the best thing in one of them because my client is, I wish you all there is one. But don't be that agent. Be that agent to reach out. Be that agent to answer the question. Pick up your phone. Help them with a lot of questions. They need an incentive. Don't get mad at them. Help them out. I mean, I'm like, this is on my way. I'll figure it out. I may not be on my way.
I'm glad I brought my winter coat.
And nobody else.
Like a bear coming out of hibernation. Whoa.
Right? Why don't we do, I had a question for Becky.
Coming out of
And the team here. It's about waiving inspection. How do you feel about waiving and having your client waive inspection?
I know someone, one office dealing with a lawsuit over that right now.
If you are
The west side.
you never advise that they waive the inspection, but if it's their choice to waive the inspection, make them sign the order. If you advise them to get their own inspection, but they declined, and it was their sole decision to forego inspection, keep that in your file forever.
And Paula, I know, when she does her inspections, I don't have how she writes it, we want to ask, if we can. Paula, you write in your agreements, on your inspections that you're only inspecting the major, you only pull out for major mechanical reasons, right? Major issues like major roof issues,
Right.
foundation, not even the mechanical, I don't think.
Right, just maybe the main.
Mold in the attic, stuff like that.
There's mold, make sure ventilation is good, make sure that the foundation is good, because everything else in between can be fixed, either or you walk it.
Right, so she does like kind of, is it a pass fail inspection as well? Or is it more like, they'll only inspect the major stuff, which would be the roof, for mold as well, and then the foundation.
That's, yeah, or, and sometimes I say storm lighting, that's a big one, because I don't want my fire in the night.
12:50.
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
I'm glad you're having fun, Don.
If we go to one, but our food not here, is it?
What time is
Is
it?
our food here?
No, that's not food. That's a food, my food.
Oh, it's in Beverly.
Oh, I didn't pay attention.
Can you chat?
I had a buyer that said they weren't. I just called them about it.
Yeah.
He told us I didn't- I gotta come over and show it to you.
Bring it back in for 30 seconds. Thank you. So we're just gonna close up, because it is 1 o'clock. I know, right? Sarah, you probably have to. So we're wrapped up because of the time. I'm sorry that your lunches were late. I apologize for that. Normally, that never happens, so it's just a one-time thing, I'm sure. Thank you for coming. If you can make sure you complete your survey, that's enclosed, your surveys. And Ethan and Denise will be walking around, we'll grab them from you. And I'm gonna let Ben just say some last parting words, and then we'll be done. I want to make sure we close up on time.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you, Don, for having me today, and enjoy being here and meeting all of you. Hopefully you guys got some value out of today.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that's big in the coaching on a nationwide level, so I'm always open to answer questions. So if you find me on social media, just search my estates. If you got a quick question, shoot me a message, give me a call. More than happy to help anyone at any time. Yeah.
And if you are interested in, if you're looking to join a team as a buyer agent, then we'd love to consider his team, and we can talk to you about that as well.
Oh, let me answer that though. I bring agents on as buyers agents, but then bring them up to listing agents within 6 months. So it's not buyer agent.
Thank you.